I'm not comfortable with relying upon an electronic sight for a self-defense gun because the electronics or the battery are going to fail me, kind of thing. Okay, why is this a misconception? Because it's based in some truth that it is a valid concern that your optic, I mean, it's powered by a battery and the battery can go dead. All right. Um, yeah, that can happen, but let me express to you from experience now. I've been using optics on pistols for the better part of a decade now. I think how a moment ago I explained how I keep my optics, especially on my carry guns, like a couple of clicks down from the max brightness setting, so it's bright enough to be used in pretty much any of the lighting conditions I expect to find myself in. What I and this is important. Okay, listen carefully. This is especially true if you actually check your equipment on a regular basis. And for me, that's daily. Every day when I go to take this gun and holster and stick it in my waistband, I do an equipment check. Number one, I check the holster, make sure the holster's good and still safe and functional. It's not cracked or anything like that. Okay. Number two, check the gun, make sure the gun's first loaded, right? I'm carrying a gun for self-defense, it better be loaded. Number three, check that the things like the sights are in their proper position, because sometimes you might notice that an iron sight will come loose and drift over to one side or another. So if you're paying it close attention, you'll notice things like that. And along with that, I'm checking the optic. Is the optic still on? Does it function like it's supposed to? Things like that. So recently, I told you I replaced this optic on my carry gun, and the reason why was because I did my daily check before I holstered up for the day and noticed that the dot, I was like, seems a little dim. It seems a little dim. And I was not sure about that. I was like, well, okay, maybe I bumped, maybe I turned it down and just forgot to turn it back up or something like that. And so I clicked the plus button to make it brighter, and it didn't get brighter. And in fact, as I clicked the button to increase the brightness, I would see that the dot actually would, as I pressed the button, the dot would, for just a brief second, split second, it would just dim. So in other words, as I'm pressing the button, it's using electricity to perform the action the button's supposed to do, and that's using enough electricity that the dot brightness was briefly dimming. And I'm like, it is in fact dimmer than it's supposed to be because the battery is now needing to be replaced. So the battery didn't just die on me. The optic didn't just turn off. Like, I just noticed that it was dimmer than it should have been. And that's how I would answer this misconception, that you shouldn't just reach for your gun and find that the optic is dead. Now, the electronics can fail. That is true. However, these optics now, I mean, especially if you're using any from the mainstream brands, Trigicon, Aimpoint, Halcyon, I would say, is pretty mainstream now. Leupold still has a pretty good reputation in this regard. Vortex still is very good as well, and they've released some optics recently that are really solid. The Shield RMS, RMSC optics, pretty, they've been around a long time. They work pretty well. They generally are pretty reliable. Have I encountered a few bad optics over the years or that have just stopped working for whatever reason? Sure, I have. But for the most part, and then that's why you do an equipment check, right? Make sure, okay, it's working. And if it's not, well, then I'll grab a different gun or I'll use my iron sights. That's why I have backup irons. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, but they are really reliable. The technology has really come a long ways. And I mean, even with thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, I've got one optic. It's a Sig Sauer Romeo 1, an original Romeo 1, first gen, that had, I didn't have an exact count, but I estimated was well over 40,000 rounds, and it was still, it actually, until recently, oh, it's right here. Here it is. Here is my original Sig Sauer Romeo 1 optic. And I do believe I actually removed the battery from this one, but this has over 40,000 rounds on it and still functions. 40,000 times that it's gone through that recoil cycle. Bam, 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 bam. And it has just ran and ran and ran. So the optics are very reliable these days, and they're just going to continue to get better. All right. So generally speaking, you're not going to just wake up one day, grab your gun, or draw it out of your holster and just find it dead. If you're checking your equipment, you should realize, oh, this is not as bright as it's supposed to be, or something to that effect. You should notice